Hi, everyone, and welcome. I'm Jen Ciani, Director of Nonprofit Engagement with Spur Impact, and I'm excited to have Tiara Fair from United Way with us today, along with the amazing team, or part of the amazing team from Epic Marketing Consultants, Jess Johnstone and Dara McBride, who are going to be walking us through how to really sync our email and our social media for that impact that we are all striving for as we're coming up on just a few more weeks until Do More 24 Delaware. So, ladies, you want to take it away?
Absolutely. I'm Jess, and Dara is over wherever you have your people. And we work for Epic Marketing. We're going to talk a little bit about syncing your email and social media. I am the social media director at Epic, so I run all things social media, and Dara is our email marketing guru. If you've been to Social Media Day Delaware, I'm the one that has kind of brainchilded that and brought it to life. Um, and so I'm here to kind of really talk about how Dara and I work together to cover our bases with some of our clients when it comes to email and social media.
Mm.
We have kind of an outline for you, Dara, if you'd like to go ahead.
Sure. When Jen asked us if we were interested in doing a webinar, we could have each done one individually, but we thought it would be more powerful and useful if we did it, we combined forces. And so since Jess's world is social media and my world is, more traditional and digital marketing, including email, we thought, how can we better sync those things up? Because I think a lot of times marketing teams, especially if they're small or if they're doing it on the side in addition to another role at their nonprofit, you feel like you're choosing between one or the other. And we want to maximize your time and resources. So today we'll tell you a little bit about ourselves. We'll walk you through why the silo effect of separate does not always equal successful. It doesn't actually equal successful ever. How you can sync things up with a dual strategy of working in tandem, some tools like a content calendar and the art of recycling content to help you actually achieve the email social media sync, and then wrap it up with reminding you about the great resources that you have through Spur Impact and Do More 24. So Jess introduced herself and she gave a little preview of me. I'm senior marketing specialist. In addition to working at Epic, I also volunteer on the Opera Delaware board, which was a position that I got after doing Spur Impact training, including there was previously the ELC cohort program, but will now be the Get On Board event coming up in April and May, or April. Jen has all the information.
Yep, April 21st and May 7th.
Okay. So chances are that if you are working in marketing and communications for a nonprofit or in the nonprofit world, you are feeling tired. Your goal here, our goal here, is to make you feel less tired and also make your donors feel less tired. Because when you treat email and social media as separate tasks, you have inconsistent messaging, and your donors get tired of seeing different messages in different places. They're not sure where to look. They're not sure what's consistent. They're not sure where to go. If you've maybe heard of the rule of 7 before, a donor often needs to see your message in their inbox and their feed before they take action. So that goes back to like seeing an ad 7 times. You're not just going to see one and then immediately donate. You need to be reminded consistently of the message. So we're not just going to add more work for you. We're going to show you how these channels can amplify one another to drive results. So first things first is your email and website. And we're going to think about the hub and we're going to think about spokes. So right now we're positioning your email and website as your hub. This is where your storytelling lives. So think about like if people were to click on a donate button, or if you were to get them to look at one of your like foundational stories of who you are as a nonprofit, why someone donates, like where would they go? They would go to your website. You own your website and your email list. This is something that Jess even though she's in the social media world, she's actually like a huge champion of saying this. You own your email list and your website. You only rent your social media followers. If Instagram disappeared tomorrow, what would happen to you? Where would people go to get information about your nonprofit? If Facebook changed everything in their algorithm, how would people know what's going on with you? So think of your organizational website as where you pitch your cause and tell your story year round. It's your foundation. If you're in a position right now where you're thinking, oh geez, I don't have an organizational website that has all this stuff, think about what's on your Do More 24 site. Do you need a temporary online home if you're participating in Do More 24? Because you get a profile that's a landing page for that fundraising. So a lot of this presentation will be building up to talking about how you can sync your email and your social media ahead of Do More 24. So one thing you can do right now, even though it's January, it still feels like March is a ways away. Work on your email templates now, because a lot of formatting elements, your header, your footer, your basic content blocks of top story, event, these can all be repeated with each send. So your email is your hub. And now Jess is going to talk to you about your social spokes.
Yes. So like Dara said, one of my questions that I always give clients is, do you have an email list? Because like she said, social relies a lot on your website, relies a lot on the foundation that you build there. Social is just one way you're going to get attention from your potential followers and hopefully your potential donors. So platforms, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn are the big ones. Obviously, you should know that you're going to have a varying amount of donors from each platform. So knowing where your audience is and where your potential audiences are can help you kind of decide what goes where. Coming up with a strategy. I always tell people a strategy can be as simple as one sentence. So even if you come and you're like, last year we got 107 donations during Do More 24. This year we want to get 108. Cool. That's our strategy. It can be something as simple as that. Remember, it needs to have those SMART goals. It needs to kind of fall in that SMART category. So you need to have kind of measurable things to see if you actually did it or not. You also need to engage in that real-time conversation. So email is great for delivering stuff. Social media is where you can kind of start conversations and kind of build an online persona. Are you more professional? Is it a more buttoned up topic that you're talking about? Or is it something that's fun and exciting? I always like to compare supporting kids in Hockessin to the SPC, I guess Humane Animal Partners now. Puppies and kittens are warm and fuzzy, but kids going through emotional trauma is definitely not as warm and fuzzy. So I definitely think being able to kind of have those conversations and build your online persona is a great place to do that, as social. A big thing I see a lot of people missing out on, especially ahead of time, because you can go and do it right now if you wanted to while I'm talking. Go to every single one of your platforms and make sure that the buttons on your page go to the correct spots. You'd be surprised how many go to how a fundraiser that is over, or how many go to a event that has already happened. So make sure that when you're kind of doing these big pushes, especially like Do More 24, you're switching over that donate link or that learn more link to your Do More 24 page. We're going to talk about mapping things out. Everybody always asks me if there's like a secret sauce to everything. And I tell everyone it's just having a calendar. I don't care whether you have a calendar that is a good old, and I actually have one here, paper planner that you keep at your desk, whether it is a Google document that you keep on your computer, whether you make a beautiful thing in Canva, it doesn't matter. You need to plan it out. I know that a lot of times we're like, I don't want to make more work for myself. But if you sit down for an hour a month, maybe you can do it in 30. Time yourself, see how fast you can do it. 30 minutes, 60 minutes, 90 minutes a month, and write out everything you need to talk about that month. That's half the battle. Now you don't have to sit at your computer or your desk and wonder like, oh shoot, we haven't posted Facebook this week. What can we do? So when we use a calendar. We are going to kind of run through, this is kind of what I like to run through. This is my process. I have my calendar. I like to think about the task at hand. So for, Epic for January, a lot of it was Dara and I had a couple speaking events. Nancy, our CEO, had a couple speaking events. So we're talking through a lot of potential events that we have. We're attending events. Those are things we need to talk about. Are there any themes for the month? So we have a client who is in the healthcare field. They have specific months that have to do with the causes related to their Department of Healthcare. So we're always talking about like kidney month, which I think is April. And that's a big month for them. So thinking out that kind of stuff. With Do More 24, that February and the beginning of March, and honestly, you should be doing the end of March because you should be thanking your donors. February and March should be a heavy lift on Do More 24. From there, you can kind of fill in where needs be. Holidays are kind of a give or take. I know the big question that I get a lot is, what holidays should I include? You can include fun ones. You can include silly ones. You can include serious ones. It's up to your business. It's up to you. I will just say that if you are talking about the Super Bowl, you cannot call it the Super Bowl. You have to call it the big game because the Super Bowl is trademarked and they will come after you. Yes, that is like that's why if you see it, like if your local bank or credit union posts about the Super Bowl and they say like the big game, it's because the Super Bowl and the NFL do not joke about the trademark they have on Super Bowl.
And this is just a very basic calendar that we put together as an example of, like if you just need something to help you start brainstorming, what could be your themes of the month? What are some notes you have to remember? And just imagine what this calendar would look like with just numbers and dates on it. Like a blank page is the most overwhelming thing to see. But even if you're not necessarily even if your organization has nothing to say about Groundhog Day or the Super Bowl, I think sometimes just putting those events on the calendar so you can start to see like how the month is going to flow, maybe when people are going to be close to their computers or away from their computers. I mean, thinking about, President's Day falling on Monday the 16th, like you probably shouldn't schedule a newsletter for Monday the 16th because people might be out of work. They might be taking care of their kids from school. They might be traveling. Their office might be closed. And then same thing about thinking about like the Friday or the Tuesday afterward. Do you want to hit people up in their inbox right when they're coming back from a 3 or 4 day weekend? Probably not. So just even putting these things on the calendar of like, okay, well, what are my anchors for this month? It'll help you at least decide like, well, this is where my first social post will go. And then I want to schedule one like a few days later. And we can go back because they did skip ahead a couple of slides just so you all could see this visual. Jess, do you want to add anything about the calendar now or go back?
I think the only thing I would say is I know another question I get a lot is very much about like minimum posts per month or whatever, mostly because a lot of marketing agencies, the way our contracts are kind of set is you kind of get like either a minimum amount of posts or you get a minimum amount of hours. Our benchmark is 15 because that's what our contract math tells us. But for a lot of nonprofits and for a lot of people that are struggling to get their social consistent, I always tell them posted once a week is better than none at all. Posting twice a week is better than none at all. Posting once a month, I would prefer you do a little bit more than that, but like if that's all you can do, that's all you can do. But our benchmark is 15. That's like half the days in a month. But if 4 or 8 is what you can obtain, go for it. I think you'll find that if you walk through the process of like what's going on and what do I need to post about, 4 and 8 adds up very quickly, especially with all of the things that nonprofits are doing. I know we have a couple clients that I sit with and we do this, and all of a sudden we've arrived at 10 after talking about 3 things. Especially when there's things like Do More 24 that are on the horizon that do need a little bit more explanation than just a simple like come donate on March 15th. Yeah.
Yeah.
For email, it is a little bit different.
But yeah, so for email, your mileage is going to vary. And I know some people who maybe their newsletter frequency is once a quarter. Um, and that's fine. If that's what you feel like you can do, and if that's what you feel like your communications rhythm should be, I think I actually find that months go by pretty quickly. So you could look into increasing that frequency. What I do at Epic is I aim to send out a newsletter to our clients and friends talking about the work that we've been up to, some webinars, services that are coming up in the month ahead. I always aim to send it around the 15th of the month. So looking at February, I have a hold on the 19th because the 15th is a Sunday. It follows on President's Weekend. The 12th seems too early. So we have it on the 19th. And if something happens that I want to move it up or want to move it back, I can. But I know that generally the 2 middle weeks of the month, I need to be getting a newsletter out. Our CEO will be participating in another webinar on February 24th. So we want to get out the newsletter before then to do one final push to encourage people to attend that event. I think we're planning on attending an event ourselves the week before. So we'd want to, include an update that we had been there. So that's just a little bit about thinking about the calendar. But also, as we're talking about this, Jess and I were talking about different nonprofits. Like maybe your nonprofit is in the arts realm. So you're thinking about selling tickets. Maybe your nonprofit is more education driven and you have webinars or resources to promote. Maybe you're really more of an advocacy group where you're just trying to get the word out. All of those things are going to inform your messaging and inform when you send. Like a performing arts organization, you're going to want to send emails a lot more frequently than someone who is really more pure advocacy, because you're not thinking about selling tickets or getting people through the door. You're thinking about raising awareness and building your cause. Jess, I'm going to jump back to make sure we covered everything, which I think we did. Yeah. Cross-pollination. And in the theme of making less work and not more, just think about how your two sides of digital communication should be talking to each other. And these don't have to be big. Like when we're talking about your email newsletter template and how that's something that you can build and repeat, at the bottom of it, include all of your social handles and include a call to conversation. Follow us on social. Did you see this story in the news? Tell us what you thought. Same thing on social. If you're looking for a post to make up your 10 or 15 posts a month, put one in there that says subscribe to our newsletter. That's a really easy reach, and that's kind of evergreen content that you can always return to. What's important is that you're using consistent messaging and consistent imagery across both. And again, hopefully this shouldn't create more work for you. It should create less, because you don't have to find a new photo. You just have to resize what you have. And again, leverage the Do More 24 toolkits, headers, assets. I think Jen has been in touch with participating nonprofits and likely will be again with a link to all of that. So here's an example.
Dara, I have a question for you. Does it matter what comes first? If you are going to cross-pollinate, a picture or a graphic or something, announcement, does it matter if it should go in email versus social first?
That is such an interesting question, Jen, and we're actually going to talk a lot about it. Yes, so it doesn't matter, and we're going to get into that. This is an example that Jess and I pulled, and honestly, all of the examples in this presentation are just based on emails and social that Jess and I had in our own personal inboxes and feeds. So again, I'm a board member with Opera Delaware. They were just promoting an event, and you can see visually, I think this is you look at this and everything is connected. The colors are the same. You're seeing like similar graphic themes pop up of that like red and white checker tablecloth imagery. You can even see like some of the messaging is the same and how it changes a little bit. Like this example here, which I think is from Insta. No. What do I have, Jess? Do I have two Facebook? That's LinkedIn.
Maybe that's Facebook. I think that's Facebook.
The messaging is very similar. This one says 2 operas, 1 night. This one on the right says 80 minutes, 2 operas, no time to blink. You know, very, very similar messaging, but repeated words, repeated phrases throughout. And then it also matches the email. So I think the email I received on January 19th, these posts, one is from January 13th. So they were coming around the same time, but I can't tell you which one they necessarily decided to. Well, I guess in this case, the social media definitely came before the email, but they were likely planning all of the branding content in concert with each other. So Jen, to get to your question about which comes first, social media or email, we want to tell you about content recycling. And we do not want you to feel bad about using the same content on email as you use on social. If you find that it's easier for you to start with a long form newsletter, start there. If you find that it's easier for you to knock out a social post, do that and then return to that social post and ask yourself, how can I move this into a newsletter? So just start where you're comfortable and adapt. And when we say that we want you to recycle, we do not want you to put the exact same content in email as you put on social, but it's okay for them to be working together. So option 1 is start with social. And this is something that Jess and I even do in our jobs with Epic. If I see that she promoted something on Epic social media, it triggers my thinking. I'm like, oh yes, we do need to promote that webinar. So think of this approach as your social media inspires your newsletter. If you are sending a newsletter monthly, look at the past few weeks, revisit your 3 to 5 most recent or best performing social posts. And this becomes your newsletter outline. Keep it current. You don't want to, if one of your social posts was promoting an event that was in the past, you don't want to put that in your newsletter, encouraging people to attend, but you could put it in your newsletter to say that it happened and to talk about what was covered. And the great thing about this is going back to how you own your email list, but you rent your social media followers. If you take what was on social and put it in an email, that goes directly to your most loyal subscribers. Because if someone has taken the time to sign up for your email list, it's probably because they're a donor, they're a volunteer, they care deeply about your cause. Because it does take a little bit more effort to agree to have someone show up in your inbox, and to stay in contact with them, open the email, read the email, delete the email, than it does to just scroll through wherever you are on social media. So going back to which came first, the chicken or the egg, this is something that Delaware Shakespeare was promoting this past month. And this is a situation where I don't know which came first, because and you can even see it in my screenshot. It says that it posted on social just now, and it says that I got the newsletter 4 minutes ago. So these were things that they planned out together. And you can see the imagery is the same. The copy is very similar. Of course, it's shorter on social media than it is in your newsletter. But it's the same call to action: buy tickets. We've released a number of tickets, limited number of tickets are available, get them now. So if I saw this on social media and then I open the email, it kind of I'm seeing the same messaging again. And I might be more encouraged to actually buy the tickets because I've seen it twice, as opposed to just scrolling through it quickly or quickly opening the email and then closing it or deleting it. Because I've gotten the messaging twice and I'm thinking, actually, this might be an event that I really want to attend. Oh, look, it's for Impact. This is another example, email and social sync, same imagery, similar wordsmithing. And then Jen, can you answer this for me? Do you know which came first? Was it the social content or was it the email newsletter?
I don't know.
You don't know.
I don't know.
You don't
I'm
know.
gonna say I can't see the date. Is it January 1st? Is that what the date is on that social?
Yeah, the social post is January 1st. I'm not sure which newsletter I pulled this from.
Yeah. So I would say probably the social. And then the email followed up on Tuesday, the following
Yeah.
Tuesday.
And this is also recurring content that you have, isn't it? Because
Yep.
it's a monthly event, so you put it in regularly.
Yep.
Another way to feed the content calendar.
There is a question in the chat from Joe about, is there a sweet spot on word count when it comes to emails or socials?
Yes. For emails, I well, I don't know what exactly the word count would be because I don't think so much in word count as I mean
I think it's more format for email than
format.
it is word count.
You do not want people to have to like you know when you get an email and it says like it's truncated and you have to open it in its own tab to read it? That is what you want to avoid. You want to be able to keep the email like with the most important information above the fold, to use newspaper speak, of like if you're opening an email, like what can you see immediately in your inbox? Because there's a chance someone will just open it, not scroll through all of it, and then close it. So keep the most important stuff up top. I know some people throw around like a word count for email as like 250 to 500. That even feels a little long to me. I would think about including like between 3 and 5 like stories. If that, like if you're trying to promote different messages, one story is also fine. I mean, that the Delaware Shakespeare email, like that was essentially one story, one event. And I would think that was, I'd have to eyeball it, but maybe it was.
Yeah, I look to avoid imposing blocks of writing that someone, would say, I don't want to invest that much time into reading all this. I want it to look inviting, short and crisp.
Yeah, I think like 1 to 3 sentences for each, like each thing that you're trying to get across, especially if you're asking them to go do something else. Like if you're asking them to go like read more, go buy tickets. I would say like keep your messaging longer if you're telling a donor story or asking someone to give in an email, because you want to like build up your cause a little bit. But even then it should be shorter than what you would do in a direct mail letter. Yeah.
Dara, can I also just add something? I think it also just depends on what you're emailing. Like, so for Do More 24, this is like really great. Like, this is great advice. Like, you want something short, you want something, but like if you have, so a good example of this is that we have a newsletter that we do. It's weekly. It's actually crazy that we do a newsletter weekly. But we do a weekly newsletter and it's called Feel Good Friday. And it starts off like, think of it like the Oprah's magazine. Like Michelle has our CEO has a message that she puts every week and with her picture, and it's like a message, and then it has a couple of stories, maybe only 3 to 5, but and then it has a lot of like events and like things to do. But we've been doing it for 5 years, and people like, it started off kind of short, but now we've gotten people hooked to the point that if we don't send it, people are like, hey, you didn't send this, or hey, like we didn't think people were really paying attention, so we put in something where it's like, email Michelle if you have some thoughts on this, and they were emailing her back and telling her what they thought about the subject matter. So I will just say the caveat to this is that, like, if you like, it depends on your audience and like your email list, and like how much are you willing to, how consistent you are. Like if you are if you're the least consistent, then yeah, one story, top of the fold. So if they like click on it, that's the first thing they see. There's nothing to get them out. If you like, and maybe you start off that way, and you want to, if you want to become more specific or consistent, then you start off that way, and then you start adding more information, because then people are hooked and they're like, well, wait, what else did they say? And then you can start breaking some of the rules once you learn them. And so that's all I wanted to.
Yeah, that's great insight. And I think it's always like a frustrating answer to hear, but the answer is like it depends, and it depends on your audience too. So this is a good conversation to have, though. And I think this is also a good point to mention that if you're not using an email provider or scheduler, you should be. You should not be sending, like when Tiara's talking about a message from the CEO, that is not coming from the CEO's personal email. It might be set up to look like the sender is, the leader, but it's being sent through a platform like Constant Contact, MailChimp, one of the many schedulers. And that is in place to protect you as an organization, because there are, email marketing laws and regulations you need to follow, and also to help you out, because then, like Tiara was mentioning, like seeing you, if you're just in Gmail sending an email, you can't see all those people who are opening it and knowing that it's a successful message. So always a good plug to remember, look into using an email scheduler and platform if you're not already. Yeah. Jess, did you want to add anything about, as we get into social, and here also is one more example
Yes.
from
So
Christiana Care.
with social, I hate that it depends answer, but it does. It is important to keep in mind that, like, much like your email, much like everything, so every social platform will truncate your message. So the first things you say, like I think it's the rule of thumb I always use, the first 160 characters need to be enough to get people to click see more or read more. That will open up the rest of your message. That combined with either whatever you're linking to, the picture needs to be compelling enough on social for people to be interested, or they're just going to keep scrolling. Like this Christiana Care one probably truncates at the end of that first paragraph. But the article itself tells you that this is about seasonal affective disorder. So it's always,
I can go back to like the Opera Delaware.
Yeah.
This is very short.
So, and like another formatting thing to keep in mind on Instagram, even though it's not, I haven't counted it, even though it's not 160 characters, I can guarantee you that Instagram would probably truncate that after 2 operas, because now you've gotten down into 2 lines. But the structure of that is visually interesting enough that people might click on it to see what else you're listing. So like that's like something that's so like niche and little that like you wouldn't think about it, but your first like sentence needs to deliver like a lot of information.
I'd say the Della or Shakespeare one, like
that one nails it. See this on the big screen for $20. Which also, now that I'm looking at it, is also the title of the email.
Yes.
So like if you're really just like, I have no idea what to put on social, like this is a good example of like the opening sentence can be the title of your email. You can add some information about those $20 tickets. This is also another good one. When you are posting to social and there are other venues or organizations, so like if you're talking about Do More 24, you should be tagging Spur Impact. You should be using the Do More 24 hashtag. If you are talking about, if you're on LinkedIn and you're talking about like your CEO or your president or someone important, you should also be tagging them in your post. which on all the platforms, you just use the little @ symbol and you start typing in the name of the organization. But that way it kind of helps you with more of the reach. So with social, you can write as long as you want. It's the first kind of 160 characters that are going to be what everybody sees. Not everybody is going to see what comes after that. And that moves us into starting with your email. So there are times where Dara will send out an email and I will go, oh my God, I completely forgot we were doing that. And I will use her email as my jumping off point for our social. So I will take her email and I will look at the things that she's talking about. So sometimes she does pull from, oh, we went to this, state chamber event. I already posted those pictures. Great. I'll have to post that again. But she was talking about, Nancy's doing another talk here. I should probably get 2 or 3 posts out about that so we can boost attendance. For you guys right now, it might be you sending out an email describing, an event you have, Do More 24 and something else. You could fill your month with those 3 things. And then that way you're kind of getting the message across between your email as well as your social.
And we have some more examples. And this is Delaware Today magazine, which is not a nonprofit, but it was something that was in our inboxes and feeds. And it's kind of a fun example about how one piece can become many. Because I think that it's both, and this is something that I have like a journalistic background. And a lot of times, like when we're approaching like writing a story, it's like, okay, well, this is going to be the profile. What are going to be the little bits and pieces that we're going to leave for people so that they can come in? So this is a profile of a pastry chef. So part of the article was a recipe. So thinking about either your newsletter, your social content, or a donor story that's on your website, how can that be a content pillar for you and be promoted in different ways? So through this one story, they got at least 4 or 5 pieces of content out of it. Sometimes they're promoting just the recipe. Sometimes they're promoting, the pastry chef article and the recipe. Sometimes it's just the chef. And we just thought that was a neat example of, sometimes the same, like it doesn't, we showed you the Delaware Shakespeare example where it really is the same message. Sometimes you can think about different approaches of how you're going to push something on your newsletter versus social media. And Jess, do you want to talk about any of these examples?
Sure. So Spotlight Delaware is a good one. They send out a daily newsletter and a weekly newsletter, but they are a news organization. So that is the outlier. That is this side of the bell curve and then all the way at the end of the chart. All of these posts are about the exact same thing. The thing that I like to stress with people with social is that obviously what they're starting with is an article that is the key article in their Friday, the January 16th newsletter. And then they post it to all their social platforms. They also had Jose come on and do a TikTok and an Instagram reel where he's talking more about his experience interviewing, who he interviewed to write this article. They also do a good job of formatting their articles correctly so that the articles can pull the images for them. So this is like a whole nother level that I had to learn when I got this job, is that if you are formatting the images correctly on your website, you will get these beautifully pulled images when you drop a link into the social media platforms. So what that means is if you put the link in, it will pull up the photo from the top of your blog, the top of your web page, whatever, and it'll be full size and it won't be like choppy. I'm sure you've seen it places. LinkedIn will make it at the bottom in the middle. We'll make it like a tiny little square. But if you are like, I have 0 graphic design experience and can barely draw a stick figure, let alone design a beautiful graphic, but I have this picture from an event, this is like a quick and dirty way that you can just upload a link to somewhere and it pulls this photo for you. So you don't have to worry about like image management, because that's like a whole nother ballgame. You don't have to worry about image management or any of that, as long as the photos are formatted correctly. That's kind of like something that I like to give people as if you ask your web person to do it, you should ask them to do it and make sure that it's done correctly because it will save you time in the long run. But then also I wanted to mention, obviously Jose, and this is a news organization, they do a great job of if a story starts to take off, they keep it going. So if you guys like Do More 24, like I mentioned earlier, Do More 24 might happen on March 15th, but say this year you raised more money than you raised last year. Say this year you beat that donor goal of 107 and you got 122. Have your, and this is like, to me, this is low stakes like content. To some people, it gives them anxiety. March, why do I keep saying March 15th? March 5th. Thank you, Jen. Something else must be happening March 15th. You can get your president, your CFO, your marketing manager, someone to sit in their office at their desk with their phone and record a nice video thanking all the donors, thanking maybe your top donors if it's like a really great number. Encouraging people to donate even though Do More 24 is over, and using your Delaware Gives page. So I think that like there's always the opportunity to continue the content beyond that, in a way that doesn't involve you like sitting at Canva for 2 hours trying to like make a graphic. Just pick a day where like your hair where you feel great and you are ready to like sit in front of a camera with like a ring light. That's what I need when I do stuff like that.
And I think we have one more example. And this is from Woodlawn Library, which I believe it's a state or county agency, but then a lot of times libraries do have like a Friends of the Library group that's a nonprofit. But just in like continuing the theme of, showing you all examples of like Christiana Care is a huge organization. I'm not saying that your newsletter has to look like that. And then Delaware Shakespeare, they're very creative. They're a bunch of artists. And, Spotlight Delaware, a nonprofit organization. But, they have a background in communications. So everyone's coming at it from a different approach. But even here, we have a newsletter of like the events at the library. And you can see that they're using the same images in their social media feed as they did in the newsletter. And again, I don't know how they do this, if they start with the newsletter and then they chop it up and put it in their social media. Actually, I think for the library, that probably is how they do it because they have to schedule out all the events in advance. But just to show you that anyone can do this approach, and it's all about starting where you're comfortable. And I think like with talking about like how much information to include before things get truncated. For this one event, join the Urban Detectives book discussion group on Tuesday, January 27th at 7. Like that's the information you need to know, and it's right up top. Okay. So talking about your implementation roadmap, you have about a month left before Do More 24. So just thinking about week by week, how you can wrap things up. And I am sure that Jen has sent you a much more comprehensive and detailed information on Do More 24 and what you should be doing to implement the resources. But just take things a week at a time of, download what you have provided, create week 2, create a shared content calendar, week 3, produce, draft and schedule everything. Jess, did you give a little plug for having a scheduler?
I did not, but I can. I know like there are so many social media schedulers. I know that like budgets are always everyone's topic of conversation. Every single social media platform that you would be using has a built-in scheduler. So Facebook and Instagram's is Meta Business Suite. LinkedIn has its own that is incredibly remedial. TikTok has one. The only ones that really don't have one are like Pinterest and like Reddit, although I don't know who's on Reddit. I'm on Reddit for fun, but not for work. But you should be scheduling your things out. I know that sometimes like that can be daunting. Like, oh my God, I have 8 posts I have to write. You'd be surprised what you can do with a cup of coffee, some headphones, and an hour of time. But then that way it's one of those things like it says here, like you set it and forget it. At the beginning of the month, the middle of the month, whatever, you do the next month. And eventually it just becomes like a reflex, like, oh, for me, it's always like, oh, the 10th of the month. Let me get everything for the next month scheduled. Um, and then that way you don't have to worry about it. And that way you don't have to think like, oh my God, we have this thing coming up. I need to get posts done. With the Do More 24 stuff, you have all of it. If that is the only thing you sit and schedule out for the next 5 weeks, you're already ahead of the game. I know Jen, they give you guys such great graphics, they give you guides, they give you copy samples. Use it. And honestly, there's also no shame in the game in just taking whatever you used last year and putting the 2026 photos to it either. We keep Google content like calendar planning calendars in Google, and I have everything that every of our clients have ever done. I could duplicate February and then just change dates and links and stuff and then just do it all over again. Um, so that's like another cheat, quick and dirty way to get things done. If you're like, I don't have time to like go find a drive and download 20 things, you can always just duplicate and go from last year. And you can do that in Meta Business Suite. You can go into past posts and duplicate them 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 times and reschedule them throughout the year, which I usually try and tell people to do with like evergreen content, which is like you're always going to be, well, not, it depends on who you are. I'm sure you are always going to be looking for either volunteers or donors. So, like, those are things that are like benchmarks. Talk about those each one time a month. That's 2 posts. But you could essentially do all the same things in January, just copy and paste from previous Januaries. It's kind of once you get in the groove of it, it makes it easier for you to do. But yes, you should be using a scheduler. Gone are the days of everybody posting on the fly or like that morning or that day. That way you can kind of organize yourself if you're one of those people that needs to like bulk your work.
Mm-hmm. Also in the theme of working ahead, we've already mentioned a couple of things you could be doing now. And just take 15 minutes to take a look at your social feeds or your existing newsletter template to like quote unquote audit your brand. Do your headers match? Are you still using a holiday header when you need to update it to be post holidays? And just small tweaks can make you look professional and save time. I think this is another like soapbox moment for Jess. Don't let heads get cropped out. Take the time to adjust your photo images to play nicely on different platforms. And remember to use so you're not just copy and pasting the same words onto each platform and from social to newsletter. Just like keep track of little nuances, like using link in bio on Facebook and LinkedIn, or sorry, I just messed it up. Link in bio for Instagram, and click the link below for other ones. So,
the other like sneaky tip that we've given a couple clients is if you're designing flyers in Canva, you can stay in the same Canva and make the next image a different size and copy everything over from that first graphic to the second one, and then just delete the things you don't need. If I see anybody putting QR codes on Facebook, I'm going to hunt down your email address and send you a strongly worded email. Please stop. It is possible if you screenshot something with a QR code, you can go to your photos and long press on the QR code and pull up the link, but I have yet to meet anybody who's actually doing that. But if you're in Canva making that, you can make your second graphic the same thing. Just remove the actual like link, remove the QR code. You can keep the dates, make everything bigger. Take out the paragraph of text that I'm sure describes like what that event is going to be, because that text is going to go in your social media post. And then now you have a graphic that matches your flyer that also probably matches what you're putting in your email. Just another little free 5-minute tip.
It's not about deleting things. It's not about reinventing things. It's about reformatting things. And that is just about it for us. So thank you so much to Spur Impact and to United Way for having us. when we all speak the same language about Do More 24, everyone wins. If you think about it, we're a small state. So when nonprofits talk together and use the same language for Do More 24, it raises interest across the board. So when you're active and ahead on your social posts and newsletters, it means that everybody's thinking about Do More 24 for a variety of nonprofits and causes. So just like we're hosting this webinar now, it's important to start the conversation in January and February. This can be as simple as an offline conversation that you're having in board meetings with staff and volunteers. It can also be about like dropping little breadcrumbs, like Do More 24 is coming up. It truly is a shock to me that February is next. Well, is it this week or next week?
Next week.
February is coming. March will be right around the corner. So just start the conversation now. Do what you can to plan now, and everything will go a lot smoother for you during that exciting 24-hour rush. So thank you again, Jen and Tiara. And we are open for questions.
I have a question. Is there any easy way? We talked about formatting. Things look different on a computer screen looking at a website, as the website will come up on a smartphone much differently. I guess you want to favor where your viewership is for formatting, but is there some kind of a fix-all? I don't know. How do you adjust for the two different ways of viewing your platform?
I would say to always make sure that things look good on mobile, because that is more often where your formatting is going to get wonky. Like I was working on a newsletter just the other day, and I was in Constant Contact. And I do know that like in Constant Contact, I can see that most of the people who open our emails are opening them on a desktop, because it's, like a business communication. I'm like talking to other businesses. So you're probably answering from your work email while sitting at your desktop. Even so, we're a marketing company. If I didn't put the time in to like reorganize the photos so that they looked appropriate on mobile, it would look like I didn't know what I was doing. So again, I think that kind of, I would say the answer is, think about what's best for your organization. If I think it is always important to make sure that your communications are mobile friendly and ADA friendly. But it can be even more so if it relates specifically to your cause or mission. Does that help?
Yeah. Especially if you're able to track on what device they're viewing, then that's very helpful.
Yeah.
There have been plenty of times where we've like gone through emails and Dara's been like, this is what it looks like on desktop. This is what it looks like on mobile. And because most of our people look at our emails on desktop, we've kind of like let a mobile, like, oh, that doesn't look great. But like 5% of the people opening our emails are on mobile. Like those 3 people can just deal with the wonky image stacking situation.
There needs to be an app that will transition for all formats. Yeah.
That's the multi-million-dollar idea. There you go.
Thank you.
You can accomplish that by Monday, right, Joe?
There you go.
Well, Dara and Jess, you guys did a fabulous job. And I guess a couple things you touched on. I love the concept of, talking about your emails are your own, you own them. And then social media, you're renting them. I thought that was a great concept. Haven't heard that before, and I definitely will be sharing that with others. And Marlene wrote in the chat for you, Joe. Her email scheduler has a toggle, so very similar to what Dara was talking about. You can toggle back and forth between what it will look like on desktop versus what it looks like on mobile. So yeah, just taking that extra step really can go a long way in making sure. But I think also knowing those analytics, knowing that 97% of your population is looking at something on desktop, that's really what your effort should be going towards versus that other 3%. So knowing all of those types of statistics is fantastic. Well, great. Well, thank you, guys, ladies, for joining us and for the entire team at Epic Marketing for all of your support for Do More 24 Delaware, and just being a fantastic resource. They are right here in Delaware, and they support lots of nonprofits up and down the state. So please take full advantage of them. Reach out to Jess and Dara, Nancy and Flora, and the whole team over there. We have a couple events coming up. We this afternoon, actually at 4 p.m. We're going to have marketing office hours. So if you have very specific questions specific to your organization, or very about mobile versus desktop, whatever it might be, please join the First Ascent a team for the marketing office hours. Again, that's at 4 o'clock this afternoon. They would love to have you and helping you answer any of your questions you may have regards to marketing and Do More 24. I've just dropped the registration links in there. As always, if you have any questions for Tia and myself, we're happy to answer those and support you along the way. Just email us at team@domore24de.org. Tia, what else did I miss?
Nothing. Just look out for, the live stream. We will be sending that out. It'll probably go out next week's email. So next week you'll be able to sign up for the live stream. If you all don't know about the live stream, because I know some people might be new, it's we basically go on live in our social media platforms for 24 hours, which is crazy, right? And so during that 24 hours, nonprofits like yourselves have the opportunity to come on and talk about your nonprofit for 5 minutes. It is as stressful as that might sound. It is actually very low maintenance. We have an amazing host, Chris Bruce, from a local marketing firm here, in Wilmington, and he makes it so easy. It's like talking to anyone, and sometimes you even get me and Jen. So we'll make it really easy. We'll ask you a few questions, only 5 minutes. You also have the option, if maybe like being on camera is just really, you can't do it. You have the option of either coming live to the studio, having the interview, doing it virtually, doing the interview with us, or sending a video in about your nonprofit. And so you have the option of doing any of those three things. But when you just make sure you look out, I know you're looking at all my emails, especially because they're so amazing. Like every single one of my update emails, I know you're getting them and you're looking at them every week. But if you just make sure you especially look at next week's.
Okay, well, I hope everyone stays warm, and we will see you this afternoon at 4 o'clock. Bye.